Yeah, I like it.
Like, by the time it's the last note of the song, it's like, don't fuck up the last note, man.
You know what makes you fuck up? It's thinking, don't fuck up.
Yeah,
That's
it's the
it,
nerves,
right?
for sure. But it's like, the longer the song goes on, like, the faster my heart pounds. Like, the longer I go without fucking up, the more nervous I get, you know what I mean?
It's it's that feeling, you have to not think about the fact that you've done it well, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you're like, oh, this is so good, this is going to be the take. If you think that, you're doomed.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
That was more of your major half-steppy thing in there, right? Your like triad with another spicy note attached to it.
Are we talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a flat 13.
Flat third. So you've got, in other words,
Major
your 1, 3,
triad.
5, but then the next note right a half step above that.
Yeah, so it's like an augmented triad and a major triad
Right.
on top of each other.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Well, what scale would that be a part of? You just have a major scale with a flat 6.
Yeah, you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of, right? Yeah. But you use that as like more like a flavor tone, even in a major key, or what would you
I'll
use
use it
that
as a 5 chord in a minor key.
Oh, no kidding.
So it becomes like a mixed Lydian flat 6 or even just Phrygian dominant. But I tend to do melodic minor version. Kind of thing.
Right. So so you're resolving that, or you can resolve that to just a 1 in melodic minor or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the tune might not be melodic minor, but you're just kind of imagining that the 5
Yeah, I don't really care what scale is happening. I'll free myself up to basically, use any chord from any version of a minor scale.
Right. So it's just like this is the flavor I want right now.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm happy to mix and mash the chords together so that's like where I get the chromatic kind of like like circle of fifths type. Like all of those chords are in either melodic, harmonic, or natural minor of the same key.
It's a very jazz way of thinking about soloing, where every chord is kind of its own special universe.
Yeah.
And I just do whatever. But you realize you're in a metal band, right?
Right. Yeah, but it comes in handy when you got to think about how you're going to mess up these scales to make them ugly. A lot of that stuff comes in with that too. Like I like the sound of a major triad on like the flat 5th degree. So if I was playing in a minor scale, it's kind of like uplifting but mean at the same kind of time, and I'll throw that in like a solo section pretty often.
And that's almost like a mission statement of like, we want to be mean, but we want to be uplifting at the same time.
Yeah, it's to me, it always seems to remind me of like the Hellraiser soundtrack or like some movie score type stuff where it gets like creepy.
Yeah.
And those are kind of like, I try to reach interesting territory there.
It's funny how far we've come in metal. I'm using air quotes for metal for people who can't see me off the camera. Because it's like, metal used to be a thing you don't want your kids listening to. Now it's a thing where like harmony nerds will like, will play this, who also like, B cinema.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a genre that's open for whatever you want to do with it, I feel like. So, and there's room for things that haven't really been, not things that haven't been done. I mean, almost everything's been done somewhat, but there's room for creativity. There's no like, this is the way it has to be, or at least I don't approach metal that way. I've always approached it from like, I think it should be timeless as far as like stylistically goes. I never want to be in like a micro subgenre or something like that. I want it to be kind of all-inclusive and anything goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of, in the tune we just played, which is How Very Dead. Is
Right.
that right? Okay. There's a lot of cool kind of changes in there with passing chords and stuff. What are some of the sort of the uplifting but means moments in there, if you want to pick one?
Well, that song is kind of based around having the Neapolitan chord in there, which is like a major triad on the flat 2.
Okay.
So if I'm in a minor scale chord. So in the verse, I don't have that. I'm doing like that. Let's turn on my gain. That's like the natural 2. But then in the chorus, I've got the... And in that intro. So this kind of, I guess there's 2 themes that kind of tie the song in. Is there's this chromatic walk down that I do in the beginning that... And there's my Neapolitan chord. So both of those like themes kind of come back at different points in the song.
Gotcha. The flat 2 there is a major chord.
Right, yeah.
And you don't think of that, or you're not thinking that as any particular mode. You're just like, I want that flavor on the flat 2. Is that?
Yeah, well, I can though, because to me it makes it like it's a borrowed chord from like a parallel Phrygian. So if we were in like E minor and I play this chord, it's almost like I'm thinking I'm in E Phrygian now. So I think of this as being like, I could play Lydian over this. So harmonic minor and then Lydian. And so it kind of can shift, but every chord there's a different set of notes that are gonna, sound good in that, or my ear is gonna guide me to.
Got it. But you didn't. Did you do music school at some point, or with all this theory stuff? Or
not really. I kind of just like learned, guitar player theory that guitar players learn as a teenager, and then I had the option to take some music theory classes in high school. So we had like high school music theory, and then we had like college level music theory in high school, AP.
Oh. That's just like regular high school in Jersey somewhere.
Yeah, and it was like an AP if you you had to take an exam at the end of like on finals day, and if you passed this exam, you got college credit for it, and it had like sight singing and stuff. I had to go to a computer lab and like sing stuff into a tape recorder.
No kidding.
But,
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, we didn't really have any good theory. No one, you got that from your guitar magazines, or from your friends in bands, more like, with that new chord progressions and stuff. But your high school actually offered that.
Yeah, and by the time I took it, I knew most of this stuff already, so it was real nice for me to just walk into this class and be like, oh, I can just like walk through the tests and stuff. And then at some point, it started getting into stuff that I didn't really know yet, like cadences and things like that. Mm-hmm. And, stuff that's hard to visualize on a guitar, like voice leading and things like that, where with chords on guitar, you're kind of like stuck with the shapes that your fingers can find. Whereas on a piano, it makes much more sense. So there's a certain level where it gets difficult for guitar players to like relate to, and a lot of people just kind of check out at that point, but there's still like useful knowledge to be learned, I feel like.